The Nintendo Direct. The perennial stream where hopes and dreams are often made, but mostly where wishes come to die. Every year, in the weeks leading up to those prolific February and September Directs, we as a gaming collective go through the same predictions once again. Are we finally seeing Silksong? Will we get an update on Metroid Prime 4? What's up with Star Fox and F-Zero? Twilight Princess HD port is definitely happening this time, right? However, if you're anything like me, then you've got a different dream in mind. One you've been holding on to for 20 years.
Kirby Air Ride! Sakurai, please! Nintendo, please!
We don't know if it'll ever happen, though. Sakurai is now pretty much retired, and HAL Labs seems more concerned with prioritizing either the action series of Kirby or developing less than inspired spin-off titles that get mixed reviews. But I'll still hold out hope. Because not only did Kirby Air Ride predict a popular subgenre of online gaming, in 2024, it can still come back as imaginative as ever to help build Nintendo Switch Online's portfolio. It's time for another save room. Thank the bus driver and find yourself a warp star. We're talking battle royales and Kirby Air Ride, baby.
Tyler, what?
I just want Fortnite!
Come here.
Alright, let's stop here for a second. This video isn't a history of the Battle Royale genre, but it is worth establishing a bit of context before we get back to Kirby. The clip we just played was from Battle Royale, the Japanese action film from 2000 directed by Kinji Fukusaka, and adapted from the 1999 novel of the same name. The premise of BR is pretty much the same as the multiplayer genre we know today. X amount of players fight in an uninhabited island arena until one person emerges as the victor. Of course, Battle Royale is much more brutal beyond the premise. The battle is a state-sanctioned event in an attempt to reduce delinquency among the Japanese youth. And the contestants consist of junior high students no older than 15. Obviously, further analysis of the movie is way beyond the scope of this video, but if you're looking for a dystopian take on the genre that is pretty much the furthest thing away from crossover events and emote ubiquity, then there's no better place than the movie. Fast forward a dozen years, however, and we get yet another piece of media that would birth the Battle Royale genre. This time with a movie adaptation of The Hunger Games.
I volunteer as tribute!
After the cultural success of the movie, popular Minecraft servers emerged with a mode called Survival Games, a 24 or 48 person battle royale where all players start at the center of the arena and fight to be the last person standing. Much like the Hunger Games, players can either rush the center cornucopia for prize loot, or run out into the environment to scavenge for items like food, armor, and weapons. At the same time, development of a DayZ mod by Brendan Green, or Player Unknown, was on the precipice of becoming something big. In short, Green, inspired by the Japanese movie of the same name, would create two popular mods: the DayZ Battle Royale mod in Arma 2, and Player Unknown Battle Royale in Arma 3. After the success of the mods, and his BR game mode in H1Z1, Green joined Krafton in South Korea to develop a standalone Battle Royale title. In 2016, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, or PUBG, released, changing the landscape of the multiplayer industry forever. It was these two modes and titles, as well as Fortnite's free-to-play Battle Royale mode just 1 year later, that laid the foundation of what a Battle Royale game is fundamentally. Scavenging and survival elements, coupled with deathmatch, last man standing gameplay. So, shooting is not the only means of gameplay that defines a Battle Royale. So, where does a Kirby racing game from Nintendo fall anywhere close to this? Well, we've gotta go back a few years.
GameCube.
カービィがレースでバトルエアライドマシーンに飛び乗ってコピー能力でぶっ飛ばせ任天堂ゲームキューブカービィのエアライドエンジョイプラスパック
Kirby Air Ride released in 2003 for the Nintendo GameCube. It was directed by Masahiro Sakurai, director of the Smash Bros. Series, who conceptualized and helped lead the project hot off the release of Smash Bros. Melee in 2001. In his game concept series on YouTube, Sakurai details the design philosophy behind the development of Kirby Air Ride. While I'll be highlighting some of the main points to situate our discussion, I highly recommend watching the video to get the full context straight from Sakurai. Legitimately, it's insightful stuff. Go watch it. One of the very first things Sakurai details is why a new Kirby title was a racing game. In short, there were too many action games on the horizon, with 2 traditional Kirby action titles in development for Game Boy Advance, and a now-shelved action title for the GameCube. Kirby needed a robust library. The benefit of making a racing game is that it would be considerably faster to produce. Final development time for Air Ride clocked in at around 1 year and 4 months total, which is insane to think about, but even crazier when you hear that the game didn't really come together until the team at HAL Labs asked Sakurai to lead full development in the final 3.5 months. Fucking nuts, dude. But the result really paid off. Not for reviews, sadly, we'll get into that, but with the core concept and identity. Sakurai is a visionary. At the forefront of design for him is the form factor of a title. Unique and fun. Air Ride embodied this, designing a racing game not necessarily with how fast you shed seconds off laps, but with how well you can engage with the game's singular mechanic, drifting. In Air Ride, acceleration is automatic. The core mechanic for how you engage with the game is the drift. A single button to build up a charge boost meter as Kirby corners around a turn. Sakurai calls this tension the squeeze and release. A tactile gameplay loop built around the crunch of pressing the A button to satisfying ends. The analog triggers of the GameCube controller only emphasize this even more, as both the L and R triggers work to control the drift mechanic, but with that satisfying click you get when pressing in the trigger all the way before releasing. A dopamine rush at every turn. And it's this design ethos that emanated throughout each of the game's 3 modes. Air Ride, the traditional lap-based racing mode. Top Ride, a condensed aerial view track racing mode. And where our video is concerned, City Trial, the open environment, scavenge-centered, warp star building, time-based, performance-judging cult classic proto-battle royale. It's gonna sound like hyperbole, but know that I'm being 100% genuine when I say that City Trial is one of the most underrated, fascinating, endlessly fun game modes to ever exist. Okay, that really does sound like exaggeration, I'll admit, but for real, the game mode is absurdly fun. And this isn't even nostalgia talking. I was able to get my hands on a copy as I needed to research how the game holds up. And yeah, still plays like a freaking dream, man. For those uninitiated, the rundown is as follows. 4 Kirbys spawn at the center of a city map with nothing but a compact star. the below basic air ride machine that deceptively looks like the warp star, but is instead the weakest star stats-wise. Once the game begins, a timer starts counting down. 5 minutes is the game's default, but it is worth noting the official rules of Kirby Air Ride Netplay set the competitive play timer at 6 minutes. Yes, there's a modern-day online audience for the game. We'll get into that. In that time, your sole objective is to get the best build. Around the map, other warp stars, of which there are 14 in this mode, will spawn in random areas at random times. There are also different colored boxes, which house various item types. Food to restore warp star health, copy abilities to attack foes, and most importantly, items that can either buff or debuff your warp star's stats. The kicker is that once the timer ends, all players go up against each other head-to-head in a randomized event. These can range from things like a traditional one-lap race, a deathmatch arena, gliding events, and so on. And it's this gameplay loop where City Trial embodies the broad factor Sakurai aimed for when approaching development. It's not about racing perfection, but how well we can engage with the systems and mechanics. Adding in the unpredictable nature of City Trial events only highlights this further. Because we don't know what event we'll end up competing in, the gameplay loop exists on the tension of on-site procurement, not dissimilar to the philosophies of modern-day battle royales. And even though you can't fully eliminate other Kirbys, you can attack them to both get your opponents to drop stats items or obliterate their warp star altogether, putting you in an advantage when it comes time to the final event. Additionally, City Trial boasts an array of random events that occur at any time. The railways might catch fire, the secret chamber in the lighthouse might open up, allowing access to a bunch of stat boost items, or a giant alien mothership might hover over the city, leaving whoever gets atop it first access to a bunch of items. And we haven't even gotten to the 2 hidden legendary machines, the Hydra and the Dragoon, which you can assemble if you find all 3 pieces of each. Get one of these on the right event, and you may as well have broken the game entirely. Obviously, calling Kirby Air Ride one of the first battle royales is messy, because by definition, it really isn't. What that claim can't ignore is that City Trial doesn't center around the last Kirby standing design necessary to invoke definitions of a BR. If we call Air Ride a battle royale, then what can we make of games like Super Bomberman? And yet, there's enough connective tissue in the framework of Air Ride's design that, actually, it does sort of function as a prototype to the genre. In this regard, Sakurai was operating on a whole other level. In a video titled Nintendo Secret Battle Royale, Action Esports highlights comments from online competitors of City Trial, and what they think is the most important element. They all say the same thing: combat. Just like in modern battle royales, your primary focus in City Trial is to win. Often, Air Ride doesn't so much necessitate you to be the best, but to be lucky enough to have the best build for the random event. Again, the best way to increase your odds at winning is by engaging in combat with your opponents around the map, stealing their loot, and eliminating their star. So, sure, even though the event stage of City Trial resembles something more like a party event ripped from Mario Party or Fall Guys, the language of the minute-to-minute gameplay within the City Trial is ostensibly a precursor to what battle royale games would look like an entire decade later: looting and combat. In many ways, the random nature of City Trial runs parallel to something like the Storm in Fortnite. Obviously, there's no meta chasing like you would in Warzone, where accessing your custom loadout puts you at a monstrous advantage against those who don't, but having a warp star that can glide for 60+ seconds for a high jump event functions similarly to holding a mobility item in Fortnite when the final circle is closing at the peak of a mountain. The aim in Fortnite is the broad approach to loadouts just as much as it is one's ability to outshoot an opponent. In fact, I'd even argue the former is more important, with frequent updates to what you can find and equip in a match as a core staple of Fortnite's gameplay loop. In the end, it's the RNG of scavenging for a versatile final circle, or final event, that dictates fun, replayability, and the language of what makes Battle Royale so popular and successful. It can't all be skill. This is such a random side note, but have I talked about Fortnite in like almost every single video I've made for this channel? Don't answer that, but it's just funny to think about. Sorry. If you're curious to learn more about City Trial, I highly suggest you watch Action Esports' dive into the game mode. You'll learn the minutiae for many of the warp stars, events, and player tactics that are ever present throughout each match in the current online net play. However, in researching the impact Kirby Air Ride has had since release, there was a single notion implied while listening to these online competitors wax poetic about this 6-minute-long Kirby Party/Battle Royale mode. In 2003, people didn't get it. The Metacritic for Air Ride sits at a mixed 61, with sites like GameSpot and IGN on this side of the spectrum that is decisively more down on the game. IGN's review cites intuitiveness, or rather, the game's lack thereof, as a major point of contention. That simplicity can be fun, but is ultimately a detriment to the game's potential. And like, yeah, any opinion like that is valid. I get it. But I also can't help but read City Trial as a precursor to what modern-day online gaming would eventually become. And in many ways, how the design of Air Ride even outshines our current modern-day contemporaries. Given its status as cult classic, and its proto-philosophies of multiplayer game design, I'd go so far as to say, we might just need another Air Ride to carve out a new niche in the Battle Royale space. Nintendo Switch Online is a tricky beast. It doesn't hold a demonstrably high attach rate, with the service acting more supplementary. Unless you're actively racing online in Mario Kart or hopping in for the next Splatfest in Splatoon, and let's not get it twisted here, there are still plenty of people playing these games online, then there's not a huge incentive to sign up for the service. But that also doesn't mean Nintendo isn't trying to sell you some of its conveniences. So let's go over some numbers. There are currently about 39 million subscribers to Nintendo Switch Online. That's a roughly 28% attach rate to the 139 million Switch units sold, and 12% of 330 million Nintendo accounts. Qualitatively though, I'd call this pretty high. Excluding Fortnite, there aren't a whole ton of games, or gamers, taking advantage of online features on the console. Most online statistics will often exclude Switch altogether when ranking subscribers and install bases. Statista, for example, houses stats for PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and Epic for their online gaming section, but nothing on Switch. Still, the Switch is still the third best-selling console of all time, and during the pandemic, became the third most popular console. In short, hella people are playing this thing. And it's this seeming dichotomy that makes me think about Nintendo Switch Online in such a weird way, especially compared to the online services from other competitors. Side by side, there aren't really a ton of differences between the two services. Online play, cloud saves, a classic catalog. But there are two factors that I think make me view NSO with the light I do, including first-party DLC with the expansion pack, and exclusive games. There have now been 3 separate Battle Royale games that have launched on Nintendo Switch Online. All small in scale, but still leaving their momentary mark on the cultural landscape. Both Tetris 99 and F-Zero 99 are exciting ways to leverage the service of NSO while utilizing pre-existing titles to enter a saturated multiplayer genre. But Mario 35, while only a limited release, I think set the most important precedent. You can indeed experiment with format in new and exciting ways, even if Nintendo probably stole the concept from a fan-made game. Kirby is in a healthy place right now. The Forgotten Land was both a hit with critics and with fans. It rapidly became the best-selling game in the franchise even. And with Switch 2 around the corner, and Nintendo gradually beefing up their online infrastructure, I think there might be space for Kirby Air Ride to make a return. Because people don't just crave Kirby, they crave fun, interesting, first-party titles. Hell, there might even be a space to include a GameCube port of the game with online features. Literally just the bare minimum. But that's only if Nintendo decides to eventually include a GameCube Virtual Console catalog. One thing Nintendo can't do, however, is release a new game in the series with minimal features. It didn't work out for both Mario Golf Super Rush and Mario Strikers Battle League. But I think HAL Labs has enough sauce that they can create something exciting, even if it's just small scale. In an ideal world, City Trial, I don't know, 33 launches next year for Kirby's birthday, testing the waters for a new entry in the Air Ride series. In a perfect world, even a smaller project like that fuels Air Ride 2, featuring a bigger map for City Trial, more players, which doesn't even have to be 100 by the way. Like 20 is fine. A plethora of new random events, new machines, and new final events. Call me crazy, but I think it really could work. Look, I know this is wishful thinking. Developing a title like this is a gamble, with time and resources going toward a sequel to a title that didn't sell well or was received well. And we know for damn sure it won't be beating the likes of Fortnite or Warzone. Not even close. But I also can't help but hope Nintendo is ambitious enough to brush against current gaming trends with their own unique spin. Again, they're already doing it. Maybe it's just me though. Maybe Kirby Air Ride is destined to remain the cult classic hidden gem that predicted an entire subgenre of online gaming. Maybe it only exists now in the echo chambers of forum threads and online emulation. But maybe, just maybe, it comes back as both the pioneer and bold spin on Battle Royale it's always been. But until then, let me know what you think. Was Kirby Air Ride one of the first Battle Royales? And do you want a new City Trial available on Nintendo Switch? I'll be waiting for you down below in the comments. I'm Christian, this is Save Room, and we'll see you on the next one.